Hi there, good afternoon and welcome to today's Kingston Library ebook review. I'm Fran and today I'm going to be reviewing The Grace Year by Kim Liggett. It's a book I discovered last year and it was one of my maybe top 5 books I read last year. I thought it was a really great discovery and it's definitely a book that should get more attention. It's really a book that's really interesting and unique, I think, and I think definitely deserves more discussion about it and more fans and more attention. It's just a really interesting book and I think one that will interest a lot of people. So before I continue, it's available on RB Digital as an audiobook, so you can head over there to listen to it there. And as for the adult reading challenge, it could fit into a couple of categories. As usual, it could be number 15, which is a librarian recommendation, and number 14, which is a book that has not been adapted to a film or TV show but you wish was. I definitely think this could lend itself really well to an adaptation. It's a really interesting story. I think could maybe better as a TV series because it spans quite a lot of time. But yes, I definitely think it could be a really interesting TV show. I will add as well that as I describe the plot in a couple of moments, it is about teenagers on the whole, but I think it definitely is better read by adults as it deals with a lot of adult themes. And while it's about teenage girls, it definitely has quite a bit of violence in it, and I think is best suited to adults or older teenagers. Yes, The Grace Year. It's set in a village, sort of in the middle of the country. It's not really specified exactly where in the world this is, or even where in time this is. It could be at any point. It could be in present day, it could be hundreds of years ago, or it could be in the future, who knows, because no technology is really discussed. It's very mysterious. But at the same time, the characters feel modern almost. It's very hard to describe unless you read it, but it's very mysterious as it's sort of out of time, but it could be said at any time. It's set in a place called Garner County, and in this village, every young girl upon the age of 16, every girl in the whole village who is going to be 16 in the next year, they are sent off for their Grace Year. And before I describe what the Grace Year means, essentially in this village the girls are brought up with the notion that they all have magic. And this magic is specifically to make men jealous, to make men wild with longing and desire for them, to make men stray from their wives. You might see where I'm going with this. So all magic that entices men and affects the men, and they are considered dangerous. And so on their 16th year, they are all sent out into the woods, into this compound, this massive compound in the woods, to spend the year in order to exercise all of their magic, to get rid of all of their magic, so they can come back to the village in order to be suitable wives for whichever bachelor in the village would like to have them. So as you may have guessed, it's a very patriarchal civilization, this village. Very sexist, very objectifying towards all the girls, and it's really quite gross to some extent, in a way that makes you feel very angry towards all the men who run this village, but you're supposed to feel like this, obviously. So the main character is a young woman named Tierney, who has strived her whole life to make herself as unappealing as possible to the men in her village, because she's worried about her magic, and secondly because she doesn't want any of the men in the village to choose her as a wife. She'd like to just be a spinster, as much of a taboo that is to the village. She doesn't care. She doesn't want to be tied down to a man, especially a man who is probably much older than her and who she doesn't really like anyway. And upon her 16th year, she's sent off to the Grace Year with her peers, where there is immediately a lot of rivalry, as so many of the girls obviously have been brainwashed into this way of life. and thinking that they have to compete for whatever man that they particularly want. Many girls who go on this Gracie don't come back alive. They've got to fend completely for themselves in the wilderness. And in addition to that, there are men, wild men, who try and capture and kill them as well during this Gracie because of their power and because of their beauty and youth and all that sort of stuff. So yes, it's a very, very interesting topic. Obviously a very feminist novel, deals with a lot of themes, and it's very... if you're a feminist, it's a book that will make you feel very angry and very righteous through reading, but by the end I hope you will be satisfied. I feel like I was satisfied by the ending. I won't give it away obviously, but the main part of it for me was female solidarity, and as Tierney strives to try and bring the girls together with varying degrees of success. Right, I'll read the blurb. I don't have the book with me as I read it as a library book, so I don't own it, but I'll read the blurb for you. So, no one speaks of the Grace Year, it is forbidden. In Garner County, girls are told that they have the power to lure grown men from their beds, to drive women mad with jealousy. They believe their very skin emits a powerful aphrodisiac, the potent essence of youth, of a girl on the edge of womanhood. That's why they're banished for their 16th year, to release their magic into the wild so they can return purified and ready for marriage. But not all of them will make it home alive. 16-year-old Tierney James dreams of a better life, a society that doesn't pit friend against friend or woman against woman. But as her own Grace Year draws near, she quickly realises it's not just the brutal elements they must fear. It's not even the poachers in the woods, men who are waiting for a chance to grab one of the girls in order to make a fortune on the black market. Their greatest threat may well be each other. With sharp prose and gritty realism, the Grace Year examines the complex and sometimes twisted relationships between girls, the women they eventually become, and the difficult decisions they make in between. So yes, it's very much a story more about female solidarity and banding together, and I think that's a great message first and foremost, but it's definitely a very, very thought-provoking book, and I enjoyed it very much, and I think I hope everyone else will enjoy it too if you choose to listen to it or reserve it upon listening to this review. So that's the review for today, The Grace Year by Kim Liggett. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you. Bye.